Okay, thank you so much for tuning in again. This time, I'm with a lovely lady called Jessica here, who is based in New York, I think. So, Jessica, would you like to give us a quick introduction of who you are?
Yes. Hi, nice to meet everybody. My name is Jessica Ng, and I am the COO of a food rescue nonprofit organization headquartered in New York City. And we essentially simply rescue excess food from all different types of organizations and redistribute them to other 501(c)(3) nonprofits that serve and feed communities that are facing and struggling food insecurity. So just for some more context, I was born and raised in New York City, specifically in the borough of Queens. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's one of the most demographically diverse boroughs in New York City, and actually one of the most diverse places in the world. So growing up here really instilled in me a really deep appreciation for different cultures, different people, different foods, which is, I work in the food rescue industry now, and I've actually worked in a lot of different industries. I've been really fortunate. I've worked throughout hospitality, food and beverage, also social services, the event space, more recently, global tourism and real estate technology. And I met Robert last fall, and I was really inspired by the work that he was doing at RLC, not just in the food rescue space, not just because it's a purpose-driven organization, but because it's very impact-driven and right in my backyard, in my hometown where I grew up. Coincidentally, Robert also grew up a few blocks away from my parents'
Oh,
house.
wow.
And prior to joining RLC, I actually, I had no idea food rescue existed as a practice, as an industry, and nor did I understand really the full gravity and depth of the problem that, food rescue is serving to address. And I really think that RLC's approach to, fighting food insecurity and reducing wasted food, that was really inspiring in itself. But also what I really was drawn to was how innovative his approach to food rescue was in, leveraging technology and also a social enterprise business model to really scale food rescue because it's such a unspoken problem and prevalent problem. And in terms of my personal life, I'm a second generation Chinese American. My family's history, they escaped China, during the Cultural Revolution. They also survived the Great Chinese Famine in 59 and 61, actually the worst famine in history. I think rough estimates, 20 to 50 million deaths, during that time period. And so, on a very basic level, food, has always been a huge love language in my family, and as it is in many Asian cultures. And wasted food has always been intrinsically very taboo growing up. And so, everything that RLC does really just resonated with me a lot as both a professional and on a personal level.
I think what you guys do and how you do it is amazing because of the kind of multidimensional impact, right? Like, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would love to. So, in simplest terms, RLC is a connector. So, we have a network of hundreds of food donor partners, and these food donors span many industries. So, we work with stadiums, event spaces, food service providers. We work with corporate offices. We work with hotels. We work with small mom and pop restaurants, and also CPG companies and every organization type, if whether they're producing food or let's say hosting events, they have excess food. And the most common practice is that a lot of organizations typically just discard the food. And to solve both reducing wasted food and growing numbers in food insecurity, we have our very dedicated network of volunteers who use our tech capabilities to schedule just 1 hour in their day just for one rescue. A lot of our really passionate volunteers, they'll pick up, anywhere from like 1 to 10 rescues a day, but really it's such a
Wow.
small time commitment that anybody can, just take an hour out of the day on their lunch break to go to one of our food donor partners, pick up the packaged excess food that is safe for consumption and only prepared by a licensed food business. And then they deliver it to one of our many nonprofit recipient partners who serve communities struggling with food insecurity.
Mm. And if you have any ideas around the impact of the work achieved by your organization. Could you give me some examples of that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, predating my time at RLC, which was founded in 2013, the organization hit its first, I would say, notable milestone in terms of, poundage of food rescued in, I believe, 2018, where we rescued 1 million
Mm,
pounds of food. And as of last year, 2024, we rescued 5 million pounds of food. And to date, during the time in which RLC has been in existence, we've rescued over 19 million pounds of food. Now, it sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, there's still so much work to be done.
mm,
Our ambitions, over the next 5 years is to be able to be rescuing 10 million pounds of food every year. So, just to give a better idea, 5 pounds of food, just 5 pounds can feed four food insecure individuals.
mm. And how come there is so much challenge around the food wastage? Because there are obviously lots of need for that, right? There are hungry people. And why in current city models we can't do what you are doing? Why do we need organizations like you to solve this challenge?
Well, that's the power of collective action. In America specifically, we have a very broken food system. It's a insane paradox where you have millions suffering simultaneously from hunger and obesity,
Mm.
overproduction, overconsumption, but also we're literally throwing away a third of the food that we're producing every year. And so while we have millions of tons, of food being wasted, we have, just as many people that are struggling with food insecurity. And, for us, it breaks down to very simple numbers that if we're able to just divert 15% of
Mm.
all of that wasted food, we'd be able to reduce the number of food insecure Americans by 50%.
Wow.
And so, if everybody is able to do their part, food rescue, I think, is still such a foreign concept to a lot of people, to far too many people. And it's a critical, issue with such a simple solution. And food is a fundamental human need. And no one should have to worry about going without it.
Mm. And what areas do you cover at the moment with your work?
At the moment, we work in 9 branches across the United States.
Mm.
We also have a national presence. And so we started a new service line. Predominantly, we were first doing branch pickups, which is very geographically driven, very boots on the ground. And then we started doing larger scale rescues in events and stadiums.
Mm.
And in the last year, we've also started working with a lot of larger I would say supply chain organizations like CPG companies, retailers, manufacturers, distributors, and for pallet donations from these large scale companies, we have the capacity to rescue food from all over the U.S.
Mm. And what impresses me, because when we look at your project, so we've been, our community also have been supporting your work, right? But when you see it, like, for example, help rescue one meal or, 1 kilogram of food or something, it feels like, or it looks like very small. But the real impact of what you have achieved is the accumulation of these small acts, recurring act, right? So, do you have something to say about this?
I think, it really aligns with what your organization actually stands for in terms of the idea of advocating for like the power of small, and that really resonated with me on a personal level. I think life is really finite, and I truly believe that it's important that we do as much good as we can in our time here. And so I think collective actions, everybody doing their part, it all adds up, and I think small individual movements towards improving the larger social good, it can shape our world in big ways, like BUNG advocates for.
Mm. Mm. And I think what you are doing might perhaps be also contributing to the spread of empathy, collective empathy, right? Because I think when you do something, that's when you feel something.
That's another element of why our volunteers are so dedicated, because they're on the ground, they're speaking with our food donor partners that are just so enthusiastic about having the opportunity to help,
Mm.
as opposed to contributing to the problem. And they are also meeting with our nonprofit recipient partners who have a lot of impactful stories and are just so eager and awaiting these donations. And another beautiful aspect of RLC is that we also rescue a really wide range of food. And so sometimes, our nonprofit recipients will get food that they would have never had the opportunity to enjoy on their own without the support of organizations like RLC. Whether it be baked goods or just, artisan bread or,
Mm.
prepared meals, catering from, high-end special events and like stadiums. So there's so many aspects, it really is a win-win-win.
Just wondering, what is the moment that you feel most inspired?
The moment that I feel most inspired is actually when I get to be in the day-to-day operations, because sometimes when you're managing a team, you get a little bit distant from the boots on the ground experience. So we just had our recent team offsite. We were able to, because a lot of our team is remote, we were able to get everybody in New
Mm.
York and we participated in a group rescue. And so, for me to be able to help and, in my community where I grew up, meet with our food donor partner and actually be part of, transporting food and delivering it to our nonprofit partners. That's really my favorite aspect of the job. Because, just to reiterate it, life is really short. And I think as humans, we need to be more mindful of how we're leaving the world for future generations and in our communities where we're growing up. And my parents, for example, moved to America to make a better life for themselves and their family and for me. And so, I need to do my part in doing the same.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing your view and story. Really, really grateful. And so this actually will be the last conversation I'm having on International Women's Day. So thank you so much for the lovely sharing.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching, listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope that you have a great International Women's Day yourself, but also with your families, your partners, your team members, and we are looking forward to celebrating many more positive actions for the next year.